Hello and welcome to the Continuing Care Safety Association's online learning modular in-service for harassment and bullying in the workplace. This in-service is divided into 4 videos, each focusing on a different area. The run time of all 4 videos is about 20 minutes. Now, why is this topic important, and what do we need to do? Everybody should do their part to prevent harassment and bullying from happening at work, because you need to work to live. And if harassment and bullying is happening to you while you're at work, well, that puts you in a tough spot, stuck between your financial and family responsibilities needing you to go to work, but your mental health suffering if you do. Sadly, a lot of people end up taking one of those 2 options. As we go through the modules, I hope you'll see that there are other options. The 4 video modules cover each of these topics respectively. The first one covers the introduction, definitions, and laws. The second video looks at what is and is not harassment. The third video walks through some examples and the sources of harassment and bullying. And the fourth will look at ways that you can actively reduce harassment and bullying at work. Okay, I would just like to acknowledge the fact that you might be a little bit skeptical as to how a half-an-hour online learning modular in-service is going to prevent harassment and bullying from happening at your workplace. It won't. But that is not the goal of this. The goal of this whole in-service is to create awareness and let you know what your options are if harassment or bullying is happening at your workplace. But the goal for me, personally, is to get those of you who should to think a little bit differently about harassment and bullying at work. Now, as you watch through these videos, keep an open mind and really consider what's being said. You might just be surprised. Okay, on to topic 1. Welcome to the first topic of the course, Introduction, Definitions, and Laws. In 2018, the Alberta government changed the OHS laws. Among these changes, there was an update to a few definitions. Here's the definition for workplace violence. Give it a read. You'll notice that it says physical or psychological injury or harm. They look at your physical health as much as your psychological health. Now let's look at the definition for workplace harassment. Give that a read. To clarify, the harasser does not need to know the person that they harass, but rather, the harasser knows or ought to know that what they are saying would cause offense or humiliation. You may have also noticed that bullying is in the definition of harassment. So we can say a form of harassment is bullying. What I'm getting at here is this. Since bullying is a type of harassment, then that means that all the laws that are there to keep us safe from harassment also apply to bullying. It might seem like semantics, but when we look at the actual laws, the distinction's really important. So let's do that. Here are the big 3 laws that explicitly mention harassment. I copy and pasted it straight from the legislation. For employers, to ensure as far as reasonably practicable for the employer to do so, that none of the employer's workers are subjected to or participate in harassment or violence at the worksite. Then for supervisors, every supervisor shall ensure that none of the workers under the supervisor's supervision are subjected to or participate in harassment at the worksite. And for workers, every worker, while engaged in an occupation, refrain from causing or participating in harassment or violence. Now, on top of the OHS laws that we just looked at, there's also Section 264 of the Criminal Code, which applies to bullying. It's actually possible for the criminal charges to be filed for cases of bullying at work on top of the OHS charges. But if bullying is happening outside of work, then criminal charges apply, but OHS charges do not. Unless it is a work event, like a Christmas party off-site. I am not saying that if you need to bully somebody, you should do it outside of work because it's not as bad. I am just letting you know what the laws are. Additionally, there are even more relevant laws than what I already mentioned. We can't forget that since harassment, violence, and bullying can cause people to get hurt, that means that they are hazards, which means most of the legislation that mentions hazards also applies. Now, similar to how employers need to make sure that workers are protected from hazards like dangerous chemicals and faulty equipment, employers also have to apply that same level of safety to violence, harassment, and bullying. To sum up, let's put all these laws together that protect against harassment and bullying at work on one page. Whoa. You can see that it is very clearly against the law. This is not one of those times where there's a legal gray area. What this means is that your managers and supervisors have a large legal incentive to do something about harassment and bullying. Stopping bullying and harassment at work is everybody's job because it affects everybody. On top of that, it's also the law to make sure that it's not happening. But sometimes we hit a gray area, where knowing whether or not something is considered harassment can be difficult. So in the next video, we will examine the thinking behind what is harassment and what is not. If you would like to view the rest of the in-service in its entirety, click on the link below in the description. I'll see you there.